In the last 10 or so minutes, we've had news that the veteran Labour MP, Sir Tony Lloyd, has died. Now, in a statement posted on his Twitter account, it reads, "We are absolutely devastated to announce the death of Sir Tony Lloyd MP, our beloved Joe, Dad and Grandad. He died peacefully this morning, surrounded by his family, as was his wish. He was working until a few days before his death, as his passion was helping others. He devoted his life to serving and making a difference to the lives of those he met, including his constituents, colleagues, friends and family." Sir Tony Lloyd, who was died at the age of 73. Let's bring in our chief political correspondent, John Craig. And John, of course, very sad news about Sir Tony Lloyd having passed away at the age of 73, became an MP in 1983.
Yes, that was a seat called Stretford in those days. Tony Lloyd, it's very sad. He's been quite seriously ill, though, recently. And there's been some pretty heartfelt tributes the last few minutes. I'll tell you about those in a second. But Tony Lloyd was, in politics, was a great survivor. He'd had an up and down career, but he had two serious illnesses. He was badly hit by COVID a few years back, and he's recently announced that he had cancer, and he sadly died today. So Mr. Lloyd was... He was MP for Stretford, then it became Manchester Central. He was a minister under Tony Blair. He was a junior Foreign Office minister. Now, he got sacked by Mr. Blair after a scandal involving arms to rebels in Sierra Leone. Many MPs at the time thought that was rather unfair back in 1999. He became chairman of the Parliamentary Labour Party, quite an important position in the Labour Party here in Westminster. He left the Commons at one stage to become Police and Crime Commissioner in Greater Manchester. He wanted to be the Labour candidate for Mayor of Greater Manchester was when that post was created, but lost out to Andy Burnham. Now, he then came back into Parliament when the Mayor took over the role of Police Commissioner in Rochdale. Rochdale, a seat famously held by Cyril Smith, the Lib Dem, for years, more latterly by Simon Danczuk. Now, when Simon Danczuk had to quit over various things involving inappropriate text messages and so on, Mr. Lloyd became MP for Rochdale. He then became Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary in Jeremy Corbyn's Shadow Cabinet. And a well-liked, well-respected Labour MP. He's been described as a stalwart. That's very fair. He was chairman of the trade union group of Labour MPs who always used to attend TUC conferences and so on. Let me read you the statement from Sir Keir Starmer, which the Labour leader has issued in the last couple of minutes. He said, "The death of Sir Tony Lloyd today is a terrible loss. I know the entire Labour Party and many beyond the party join me in sending our deepest condolences to Tony's wife Judith, his children Siobhan, Angharad, Kieran and Ali, and his granddaughters Carmen and Caris. Like them, we'll remember his deep commitment to Labour values and his decency. We'll always be grateful for his dedication to public life, his devotion to his country and his desire to make the world a better, fairer place. In the Labour Party, we'll honour his legacy of service to others and his commitment to justice. May he rest in peace." Tony Lloyd was always softly spoken, always very helpful to journalists, I would say, a very popular figure at Westminster. Let me just tell you a little bit about some of the other tributes. A particularly emotional one from Angela Rayner. Now, she's MP for Ashton-under-Lyne, more or less next door to Rochdale. "I'm heartbroken," Angela Rayner says. "Tony was not just a kind colleague, but a dedicated friend and rock of support to so many of us, thinking of his constituents right to the end. His loss is deeply felt by the whole Labour family. My love goes out to his family and all those who knew him." And indeed, from the left of the party, of course, Mr. Sir Tony served in Jeremy Corbyn's Shadow Cabinet. From John McDonnell, the former Shadow Chancellor, I send my deepest sympathy and condolences to Tony's family and friend. Tony dedicated his life to improving the lives of others. He worked tirelessly for his community and for the Labour and trade union movement. With his kindness and caring nature, he was an inspiration to us all. So Whilst his death has not come as a shock because of his illness, there will be great sadness, particularly among Labour MPs and indeed MPs of all political parties. A very popular figure at Westminster. His illness and his death, very sad, and no wonder there are such generous and heartfelt tributes to him.